So blending color, I have a tonal drawing that I'll use to demonstrate how to create tonal shifts from warm to cool colors on a portrait and with skin tone. So I have the subject that I created two drawings for, my contour drawing, my tonal drawing, my 5 different tonal shifts from light to dark. I have assortment of brushes, thin, medium, and wider brushes to choose from. A whole bunch of trays for water, for color material, more than I'm going to need for this painting. A saucer for water, a rag to wipe away mistakes or to dry things a little faster, and a big tray that I would use for a bigger work if I needed to mix and blend more colors together. But for this work, my little trays will be just fine. I have a list of colors that I've created over the years. When I do blend and use colors in my work, I've created a list of different pigments and how they dry, because things can look one way when they're wet and a totally different way when they dry. So I have a list of all different types of colors, from oil markers, dry pigments, metallic paints, oils, all different things. What I would do before I begin a painting is I will look at the thing I want to paint, and I'll figure out what colors I want to use. What do I want it to look like? What color scheme? For this mask, I've decided that it is red, and I want to be true to that red look of it, but I want to also create layers of different tonal shifts of that red. I want to bring out the lighter tones, the medium tones, and the darker tones. So right now I'm looking, I think I've chosen, what is that, like a antique bronze for the darker tones, the cadmium red for my actual value of the mask. The antique bronze and the red brown will be for my darker tones. Let's see here. I think there's a Mayan gold in there and a yellow ochre for the medium and lighter tones. There's my yellow ochre right there. My Naples yellow. And my yellow ochre if I choose to go in that direction. So I'm gonna give this painting about 3 or 4 passes. First with my Naples yellow and a little bit of red and a little bit of my gold, just in the beginning, just to give it a nice warm light undertone. Then I'm going to give it a medium pass with my red and gold, and then I'm going to give another pass where I introduce some cool colors into the work. I believe I have a green that I'm going to use, and then after that I'm going to go into the darker values with the Naples, with the antique bronze and the red. So once you've created a methodology of how you want it to look, you've gathered your paints, and you know the layering process you want to go through, I am now starting my first pass, which is the lighter tonal values. My cadmium red, a little bit of that down first. I'm going to mix my first pass separately just to see if it's going to be the way I want it to look. So the cadmium red, the Naples yellow, and some gold. I'm going to mix those together and create a nice light red goldish hue. When doing this, use lots of water, because I'm going to be doing 3 or 4 different layers. I want to create nice washes so that all the layers kind of show in transparencies through each other. So a healthy amount of gold and Naples yellow. Because it's the first pass, it's the light tonal hues. Once I feel like it looks right, I'll get my brush, and I'm using for the size of this drawing, I'm using a medium-sized brush, not a large brush, not a thin brush for details. I just want to create, I want to just put down nice base amount of tonality, nothing super detailed, and not a big brush where I just wipe out the drawing. I want to get in between all the contour lines and just fill in all those. So I'm starting. So when I start, I'll start in the bigger spaces, the cheeks, the foreheads, the places where I can apply as much material, as much medium as possible. And I'm doing it in a flat, not very stylized or a very detailed way, just kind of creating flat washes. Just covering as much area as possible with a lot of water and creating a nice even wash over as much of the surface as possible. Create enough of the value that you can put it liberally all over the face or all over whatever you're trying to give it a value to. I'm not going into the darker values of my tonal drawing because I pretty much know I don't want this color value to exist there, but I'm putting it over at least 3/4 of the portrait. Make sure you have enough medium to put under the neck and all the little spaces that you normally don't think about, so that it's a unified, so it's pretty unified throughout the entire face, figure, back, wherever you're applying your values to. And it's important to be very loose. When I say loose, I mean use lots of water. You want your values to be translucent and to come through the different other values that will be on top of it. So use lots of water. And after each pass, I always wait about 20 minutes to let it dry before I come and do the next one. For the neck, I probably should have used a bigger brush. It would have covered the space a lot. Not so much faster, but without so many little itty bitty brush strokes. At this level of the painting, you don't want, at least I don't want to have tiny little dash brush marks. I want it to be flat and cover as much as possible without all this stylized like brush lines or brush strokes. Use your rag. I'm grabbing my rag, I'm wiping away blotches or areas that kind of run over spaces I don't want it to go. I don't want to have to fix that later on in the process when it dries, so just wipe it away. The good thing about working with pigments or watercolors or gouache and some acrylics, you can wipe things away and save yourself some hassle later on down the line. So I'm finishing up this first pass. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'm gonna come back with the next value shift, which will be, this is my light overall tonal values. The next pass I'll take will be gold and yellow, which will be my like really bright highlights. And I'll probably use that in maybe a quarter or half of the portrait. So give it 20 minutes or so, let it dry.